Hold on. Okay.
Yeah, you just second me.
My name is Hassie Hood. I am a small group leader with Chi Alpha, and I'm also a student at UNC. I was born into a Christian family, and so I was brought up as Christian, and I was baptized as in a Methodist church as a baby. I don't remember it, but I was the Christian girl in middle school and high school. I was always known as that. I knew the basics of Christianity, and I knew that Christ had died for my sins, but I never knew what sin actually looked like, and on the flip side, what it actually meant to turn away from sin. Going into high school, I had my first struggle, I guess, and that was with disordered eating and body dysmorphia. I went to a dietitian, and they said I had orthorexia. It's kind of an uncommon thing. In my attempts to, I guess, recover from that, I did my best to lean on God, but I was mistaken in where I was putting my identity in. So instead of putting my identity in Him, I was putting my identity in the food that I ate and then what I looked like. I picked up powerlifting in high school, and I brought it with me throughout college, but I still lacked that area of putting my identity in Christ. And in order to feel good about myself, I put my worth and my identity into a guy that I met in high school, and I started dating. For the next 2 years, I went out with him, and it became pretty abusive. I went to college at Lincoln, Nebraska, and I went with him to college. I didn't have the support system that I had with my parents at home, and I felt far from God at this time, but also in this weird position where I still professed Christ, and I still thought that I was a Christian and that I was living the right way, but I justified every sin that I committed. And I didn't even look at my sin as if it was sin. Throughout my relationship with this guy, things got more and more abusive, and I started realizing it. And it got to the point where I was able to break the chain of being in that relationship. About the end of the school year, I was trying to decide whether I was going to go back to Lincoln for school or if I was going to move. So I ended up moving to Greeley, Colorado. The people I was with were still not the greatest influences, and I picked up the same exact sins that I was committing before. I had no plan on getting closer with God, even though I knew God literally saved my life. Come October, and I'm living this sinful life, and I'm not really getting along with my roommates, and so I'm talking to my aunt, and I'm telling her all about how I'm just frustrated with that I haven't made any friends, and so she pointed me towards Chi Alpha, and I thought it was a sorority, and I didn't want anything to do with it. She knew a girl that's from Yuma, and her name is Katie Chapman, and she gave me her contact information, and I decided to go and get lunch with Katie. So I hung out with Katie a few times, and she brought me to the first small group I ever went to, which was probably about a year ago, or 2 years ago. And it was really cool. It was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had, being vulnerable in a group of girls. It was obviously about Jesus, and I was able to open up about what I was going through. It was the first step in feeling like there was something more than just living this professed Christian life and then going out and partying and getting drunk and doing whatever I want. By December, I had started coming regularly, and also by this time I was realizing that I needed to change some things in my life. I was at a Chi Alpha service, and Duncan was preaching on just the wages of sin and how terrible and ugly sin is and how much God hates sin. It was the first time that I actually realized how ugly my sin was, and it was honestly one of the first times I realized that what I was doing was actually sin, and it was I wasn't being blinded by this idea of justification of sin. I wasn't cherry picking the Bible. And so that Chi Alpha was the first time I ever repented for anything. And it was only repentance for one sin, specific sin, but it was a really, really big sin in my life, and I wanted to change. I didn't want to live like that anymore, and I wanted to be pure for the first time ever. And, you know, I actually got on my knees and I repented, and I was like, okay, like, this is great. I got up and I went to bed like nothing ever happened. But then the next morning, I feel like I literally woke up and someone put like a new contact lens in my eyes. It was literally like a 180 flip. I didn't even have to think about not cussing. And I didn't have a desire to go drink a bunch of alcohol. I didn't have a desire to live in sin with guys. It was like one of the coolest moments of my life. Ever since then, I've been doing my best to be in communion with God, and He showed me this concept, which is just repeated everywhere in the Bible, of just being made new. And I finally surrendered the thing that I was holding on to. It's over.
Cool. Well, nice.
Yeah.